Okay, today we're going to be talking about Chapter 11, Sports and the Economy, and essentially how they go hand in hand and how they influence one another. Go ahead to the first slide. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is the conditions for the growth of commercial sports. So, when we're talking about commercial sports, we're talking about the ones that, get the media time, that are making the big dollars, the professional, elite college level. So, for in order for them to grow, there needs to be a couple things. One, there needs to be a market economy, meaning there needs to be a market that wants it. Okay, it needs to be in large, dense, populated cities. A lot of us are from the state of Iowa. We don't have a professional team here, and it's because at the end of the day, we really don't have a community that has a large population. The standard of living provides the time, the money, the transportation, the media access. Okay, so the people within the community. So there's lots of big cities, obviously, in the United States. Not every single one of them has professional teams because also the standard of living needs to be high, and you need to have the people that can attend these events and support it. A large amount of capital, meaning like construction and the maintenance, like all of those things can get taken care of. And then they need to be in an area where, the emphasis is on consumption and really, the status of having a great team. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So, class relations and commercial sports. So, we've talked about social class already. Now, we're going to look at, that with commercial sports. So, the preferences and priorities of the people that are in power, which we've already stressed quite a bit in the last chapter, or I'm sorry, in chapter 9, influence the kind of sports that we get to see. So, as I pointed out in the last chapter, golf is enjoyed by a majority of wealthy, powerful individuals, and they're going to get TV coverage. Football produces the ideologies that are so important to our society. It really promotes men, okay, that they're in privileged, and it celebrates masculinity, strength, power, and reaffirms, the priority of competition. So when you're talking about, again, what commercial sports are we getting the most access to? It goes back to our class, status. Who's in control? That's what we're getting exposed to. Go ahead to the next slide. So obviously, pretty self-explanatory, and we've kind of hammered this in other chapters, but football is, the most widely watched sport in the United States. Understand worldwide, it's soccer, hands down. The World Cup and other major events get way more viewers than football. And actually, most of the world, isn't as excited about football as we are. But that's what's the most popular in the United States. Why have sports become so popular in our society today? Okay, so think about that. Why do we get exposed to this all the time? Well, one, the quest for excitement. It's entertaining. And, there's going to be a winner and a loser, and there's a lot of things that happen that, just really draw people to it, regardless of how much you like it. I mean, look at the Super Bowl. Okay, there's Super Bowl parties, and there's plenty of people who aren't huge football fans or aren't cheering for either team, but it's exciting to get there and cheer people on. Emphasis on success, and again, watching people work really, really hard and then, become successful. We like seeing that. Widespread organization and competitive youth programs. So the more that we're exposing our youth to all these sports at a young age, the more that they're going to continue to enjoy it. We talked about that in one of our first chapters. You never really leave sports. It's always a part of your life in some capacity when you start it at a young age. And then the obvious, the widespread media coverage. It's in our faces constantly, whether it's on Twitter or on TV or on our Facebook pages. Like, we are constantly getting hammered by the sports, and that's why, it's just become more popular. Go ahead to the next slide. So, economic motives and the globalization of commercial sports. So, number one, sports organization look for global markets. So, what they mean by that is they want to go worldwide. So, we just talked about the NFL, isn't as popular around the world, but they're trying to be. They try to do things. They take NFL teams and they go abroad and they play. There's other leagues over there. Obviously, the NBA has connections and things like that. FIFA, which is, if you didn't know, is connected with soccer. They're really looking to get the whole world. They want to draw in as many people as possible. corporations use sports as vehicles for global expansion. Okay, so one goal is to make money, obviously, and another goal is, to really sponsor enjoyment and excitement for all. Go ahead to the next slide. So this is just, it's in your book too, and I find it pretty interesting. Tokyo Super Bowl, it kind of states here in the early 90s, the NFL really tried to global expand and, went into Japan and, obviously it's big in Germany and things. And they were trying to make it a global thing. It hasn't quite gone that direction as quickly as I think they thought it would, but they're still working on, trying to make it, a worldwide sport. Go ahead to the next slide. So, ideological outpost and action. So, branding sports. So, sports are now branded, which I don't think is going to surprise any of you. Anytime you watch an event, you're seeing logos and sponsors and commercials and brought to you by and things like that. In your next coming assignment, you're going to be, it's going to be next week, but you're going to be talking and looking at commercials and kind of seeing where these brands are coming from. And, chapter 12 will also be paired with that, which, will give you some insight. But you're going to see that sports events are now branded, athletes are branded, and you guys have heard about all sorts of stories. And if you haven't, there's athlete sponsorship. LeBron is Nike, for example. I mean, that's just a big one. I can give you, there's people with Under Armour, and, they all are sponsored by someone. Question here at the bottom: what limits corporate branding? When do people in the United States start having their minds, essentially we're putting this in your faces, and when are we as a society going to be like, wait a minute, this is a little too much, or is it not too much, or does that not bother you at all? That's just a question for you to kind of ponder. Go ahead to the next slide. So these are some old ads, which again are in your book, that I think are hilarious because, corporations